How do I connect two ends of 3-strand rope together nice securely and it ain't gonna come apart? Now you could tie 2 knots together, you could tie a square knot, you could tie a sheet bend, but I wanna make this like last for eternity. What am I gonna use? Well, I'm probably gonna tie midline splice. Now, what's a midline splice? It's exactly how it sounds. You have 2 ends of rope and you want to splice them together like that so they're intertwined and basically permanent. If you do this splice correctly, it'll still maintain roughly 90-95% of the rope's strength if there wasn't a splice in it. The nice thing about a splice is that if you splice it correctly and make it look nice, good craftsmanship with your splice, it'll only usually deteriorate tensile strength of your rope by about 5%. If you don't do such a good job, it could be anywhere from 20 to 40%, which is still better than tying 2 knots or tying a knot. You know, if you're to tie a square knot or a sheet bend to tie the 2 ends of ropes together, that would basically deteriorate the tensile strength of the rope by probably about, I don't know, anywhere from 50 to 60%. If you're able to do the midline splice correctly and make it look good and do a good job on it, you can almost retain 100% of your rope's tensile strength. So let's hop into it. Today, I want to teach you how to do a midline splice. So first step is, well, I have my 2 ends. I have them taped up right now. Well, I gotta take my tape off. Now in previous videos, I showed the eye splice, which I'll have up in the corner. Then I also showed how to tie the crown splice to the back splice, which I'll pop that up in the corner as well. So you can learn how to do these 2 splices. The third splice that I want to teach is this midline splice because this is the third, one of the 3 splices that are good to know, especially if you want to get into lineman trade. These were 3 that I had to know. However, they're also just kind of cool tools to have in your pocket to be able to actually do splices. I think it's pretty cool. It's a kind of an art form and shows the ability to have good craftsmanship. When you start to unravel your ends, you kind of figure out, okay, how much strand do I need exposed? And for the most part, usually 6 inches, roughly 6 inches here is usually enough. You can go a little bit more if you want to, but 6 inches, the rule of thumb is 3 tucks is usually enough for a splice. So on your eye splice or your crown splice, more specifically your eye splice, because there's potential for load bearing tension on your eye, you want to do at least a minimum of 3 tucks. So 1, 2, 3 tucks, and then if you have more, you can tuck more if you want to, but 3 is kind of the minimum number. So here I found out about 6 inches is usually enough to do at least 3 tucks. So I'm gonna just take my tape, and this is going to help you, is to take your tape, mark your 6 inches, and it also keeps the strands together for when I'll show you a little bit later in this video why this tape is going to help you, especially on this midline splice. Then I can unravel my strands, and then of course taping this end up in the direction that it's going. So here I have one of my ends done. Then I can move on to the other end. Again, I'm just gonna go about 6 inches. So roughly in there somewhere. Throw on a piece of tape there. This is also kind of nice to use this narrow back tape for this stuff instead of the wide glide, just because, you know, then you don't have a very wide, you just have a nice narrow piece of tape there to help you. Tape up my ends. Now I have both of my ends unraveled, taped. This is where we can start. So the trick to doing this midline splice is you can see how there's obviously 3 strands, and then you're gonna take both ends, and I have them spread out like that, and I'll hold it just like this. Then I'll take these other ones, and then they just kind of go in to a point where each strand, there's no 2 strands right next to each other out of the same rope. So it kind of looks like that. You can see there. They'll just come in and then merge just like that. You see how it fits in there perfectly. That's gonna be your first step, is getting that there. And then it's super easy. This is where this piece of tape really helps, because now you're just gonna go over, under, over, under, over, under on all your strands on both sides, and it's super easy. We'll switch to a different camera angle so I can show you up close a little bit more step by step, show you how to do the midline splice. Let's hop into it. It'll look like a mess first off, but I'm gonna show you this again. You can kind of peel these strands back if you want, and then you'll see how each strand falls into place there. So that's your key first starting point. Once you have that, then you can take these strands or either side, whatever side you want to start. And I'm just going to hold those like that. I'm going to start with this side here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go, you can see right here, here's a strand. So I'm going to go over this one. This is where this tape can kind of get in your way, but I'm going to go over this one, under this one. So I'm just going to peel this open. The starting can be a little bit hectic. So start there and then go to the next strand. And then I'm going to go over this one right here and under this one. Then I go to my last strand and I'm going to go over this one and under this one. You can see how the tape kind of gets in the way, but trust me, it helps in the long run. So once you have your one side started, like I said, it looks very chaotic right now, and it is. Then we move to the other side. I pull these strands tight, and then I start with this side over here, do the same thing. So I'm gonna go over, under, over, under, over, under, around all of them. So I'm gonna start here, I can go over this one and under this one. This is where this tape helps right now because these strands aren't wanting to come apart from each other. I'll go over, under, go to the last strand, over, under. You should never have to tuck a strand that's already tucked with a different strand. So there, now we have start on both ends of our midline splice. And then as you can see here, you know you're doing it right when all your strands are about a third away from each other. So this one and this one, all three of them are kind of away from each other equally. So now it's easy. Now I just go over, under, over, under, over, under. Switch to the other side, or you could finish out all one side if you want to. I will just go back and forth. This side, then that side, then this side, then that side, until my strands are all done, or you can get a minimum of 3 wraps or 3 tucks, and then that should be good. So I'm just gonna do that right now. There we have a completed midline splice right there. So that right there is your midline splice. Now I did, let's see, I only did 3 tucks, so I did kind of the minimum amount of tucks because I kind of ran out of room. Obviously, if you have a long piece of rope, you can do a lot more tucks. I could do 1 more tuck, I'm sure, with the amount of strands I have left, but at this point I would probably just tape it or cut it and burn the ends. Probably tape it, just tape the ends like that. There is your midline splice. Pretty easy to do, takes a few minutes. I mean, the hardest part is literally the start, is when you're joining the 2 ends. So it's literally like this, and then they just kind of merge into each other like that. You don't want to have 2 next to each other or nothing like that. They just kind of plug into each other. So yeah, there's your midline splice, there's your back splice, there's your eye splice. The 3 splices that you are probably a good idea to know how to do, specifically for the lineman trade, but I'm sure for other trades as well. It's just kind of a cool tool to have in your pocket as well, to be able to do these kind of splices. But yeah, so there's your midline splice. And like I said, by doing a good job on your splices, so let's say you had an eye splice and then you had this midline splice somewhere in the line as well, you know, I would decrease, this is a good splice, I'd decrease 5% off the rope strength for this, and then probably another 5% for this midline splice as well. So altogether with your splices, I have only really deteriorated the rope strength by 10% versus if I were to do a bowline 50% and then tie a sheet bend or a square knot in the middle to join the 2 ends of ropes together. Now you literally are decreasing the rope strength by like 80% instead of 10%. That's one of the cool things about doing the splices, is it maintains the rope strength a lot more and a lot better than just doing a knot. Of course, knots are easier to tie and they're a little bit more convenient. You can also do, and I'll show you right here, you can also do a farmer's midline splice if you want as well. That's all this is basically you would take your 1 end of rope and you just find a spot to start, and then you just put your end through like that, and then skip a couple strands, put it through again, skip a couple strands, put it through again. I mean, you can do it this way as well, and we have done it like this in the past. This is just like the farmer's eye splice. This is the farmer's midline splice. And this usually works as well in a pinch. So as you can see there, I'm tugging these together with all my might and they didn't budge at all. So that's a little bit faster and easier way to do it, is to do the farmer's midline splice. But as you can see here, this is kind of your more conventional, stronger, I would say better way to do it if you have the time. And this is more of a permanent splice. This is more of like, I just need to do a quick midline splice, these 2 pieces of 3 strand together. This works in a pinch. This works basically permanently. Hopefully you can learn from this video how to do a farmer's midline splice and a conventional midline splice. With here at Blueprint, we're here to expose, teach, and educate you about blue-collar career opportunities. Things are going to help you in the skilled trades like splices and tying knots and things of that sort. So hopefully you enjoyed and learned from this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on those bell notifications for future blue-collar content, and I'll see you on the next one.